Is it just me, or does it feel like society has been growing colder and colder by the day? Like, over these last few years, I've been honestly noticing a pattern around me that kind of scares me a bit. Whether or not this is a new thing, I'm not entirely sure, but what I definitely do know is that it's only getting worse and worse. Now, what that pattern is people's hesitance to do the right thing anymore. It feels like people are so bogged down with their own internal struggles at this point that they just stop giving a fuck about those around them. Like, it's almost like they've gotten to the point where they are so burnt out of having to try to be a good person that they instead go ahead and take the easy way out and just opt to be a shitbag instead. Because guess what? At least a shitbag doesn't get taken advantage of, and at least it's easy to be a shitbag. And to be honest, seeing that is honestly pretty fucking demoralizing. Whether it's things like cheating growing more and more common, people being perfectly okay with playing with each other's feelings, or the political divide amongst us growing larger and larger by the day, with the media only perpetuating it because they only give a fuck about money instead of the people that they're supposed to look out for. Honestly, I'm tired of it, man. I'm tired of the fact that we lost faith in each other, and it feels like empathy is dead. And it's like everybody is so far down that rabbit hole that they can't be bothered to change any single fucked up thing about them because why bother when everybody else wouldn't do the same for me? It sucks that I now have to question whether or not somebody is going to use me, and that I don't have the naivety that I once had anymore. I miss being able to take people for their word and feel like it's the truth, and most of all, I miss being an optimist. I remember the moment I first came to that realization, and as society continues to go down that same path, I find that my beliefs are just continuously proven right. Now, funnily enough, that moment that made me realize how much I hated society was from a person I was once very close with. So, let me give you a little background. During senior year of high school, my best friend at the time started dating this girl. We'll call her Kathy just for privacy's sake. Now, Kathy had been friends for a while with my best friend, who we'll call Christian, and Christian was absolutely head over heels when it came to this chick. I remember meeting up with him one day, clocking my boring ass shift like I did every Friday, before he walks in with a shit eating grin and immediately began to show me his phone. He was talking about this new girl he started seeing and how happy he was to finally find somebody worth dating. Now, Christian at the time had been single for a while, and honestly was at the point where he's about to give up on dating since he was only ever really led on by women most of his life. Just when he was about to give up rolls Kathy, who seemed to genuinely care about him. It seemed like he finally struck gold and could rest easy knowing that he found somebody who loved him. Even better, she got along with me, seemed really cool, and we would all hang out a bunch to where I even consider her a great friend of mine. Kathy would talk about how sweet he was, how much he cared for her, and how much she absolutely loved Christian. But the thing I later came to realize was that it was all fake. Christian and Kathy continued to date for a while, and as time went on, that's when the cracks started to show. What I notice now is that people will only ever tell you things that they want you to hear versus the truth oftentimes. And they're fucking comfortable with it too, which is the worst part. Kathy was one of those people. Kathy would tell me how much she loved Christian, but would tell him to not tell anybody that they were dating because she was embarrassed to be seen with him. Kathy would talk about how much she cared about him, but would hang out with men Christian hated, and would totally disrespect all his boundaries when he expressed that he was uncomfortable with that. As time went on, the hypocrisy grew more and more. Here Christian was, pouring out nothing but love for a woman who refused to do the same for him, with Kathy enjoying the love and validation he gave her at every turn. Time went on, and I began noticing the patterns more and more. Kathy, someone who was a really good friend of mine, started to peel back the mask that she forced onto herself and revealed herself for who she truly was. And at that point, that's when I started to resent her. I would have conversations about her to Christian all the time, bringing up the lack of respect, lack of boundaries, and how she was using them. But he loved her so much that he would rather be used than hurt her by leaving. It's crazy how much love can demolish a person. And so Kathy would continue to use him. And when I started to realize the extent of the abuse she perpetuated, I called her out on it. She would tell me that she did not want a relationship with Christian, and I would tell her to fucking leave him instead of keeping him on a leash. And you know what she said to me at that point? She straight up told me that she liked the attention too much. She would vent about her past experiences with men and how they used the fuck out of her, all the while she did the same exact thing to Christian. And when I would bring that up, she would get defensive and say it wasn't the same thing. Kathy continued to quote unquote date Christian, and her abuses continued to get worse and worse. She started hanging out alone with the men that she claimed were abusive, when in reality she was just blatantly cheating on Christian. She would come to Christian and I crying, but would completely disregard the stuff that we had to say to her, and would continue to seek out validation from every single man that would flirt with her or give her a time of day, even though she was still in a fucking relationship. At this point, the friendship I had with Kathy wasn't even a friendship at that point, since every discussion would be me telling her to stop leading Christian on, and basically woman the fuck up and stop being a whore. Eventually, she finally listened, but that wasn't enough. As she continuously saw other men immediately after ending things, Christian sat there remaining heartbroken. And when she quote unquote moved on, she would continuously text Christian telling him how much she loved him and how the thought of him being with another woman made her absolutely sick. And let me tell you, when I got wind of this, I fucking lost it, dude. I remember calling her out immediately, telling her that she's been seeing other men who treat her like dog shit, yet wanted Christian to stay heartbroken over her. Telling her how manipulative and shitty that was, and how she was no better than the men that she bitched about. I asked her how she would feel if Christian did the same thing to him, and all she could muster up at the time was a meek, "Oh, I don't know." When I heard that, I cut off the friendship then and there. It was over, and I can't stand being around people who have so little self respect for themselves that they instead opt to live a life of short term gratification, no matter what the cost may be. And I told her straight up that she was everything that I hated in people and society. And when she heard that, she got butthurt, and so I blocked her, and she continued to seek out Christian's validation before eventually blocking him when she got with his friend. It absolutely astounds me how somebody can go to those lengths to seek out validation, and how much they're willing to destroy somebody over it, how much they're willing to stoop down to levels so low you couldn't even see it, yet despite that, it's still so common. The epiphany I had at that point was that people like Kathy prefer exterior validation to fill the void within themselves, and will seek it out no matter the cost, even if it means that somebody can give them attention. And even if that means that it leaves a bigger void in the people that cared about them. As soon as they lose or miss out on it, they go back to being the empty husk of a human that they were. So if it means that they don't have to be that husk anymore, they will gladly make a husk out of somebody else. In this case, the husk was Christian. What I realize now too is that there's a lot of Kathys in this world, and the reason behind it is that we tolerate this shit. It's becoming more and more normalized at this point, and it seriously feels like if we don't do enough to shut that shit down. People choose to look the other way whenever stuff like this happens, and they'll say absolutely nothing about it, which means that shitbags never face the consequences of their actions. Kathy never fucking did. They realize that they can get away with hurting others, and none of them want to find validations within themselves because it's too fucking hard, right? They always want to do the fucking easy things because they're cowards who throw away their humanity and morals for the sake of feeling something other than numbness. They'll feel so empty, but instead of working on it, they opt to make those around them even more empty than they were. But yeah, it fucking pisses me off. Fortunately though, I do have some good news, and that is the story of Kathy does end off on a better note. After the fallout of the breakup, Christian struggled but eventually realized how shitty of a person she was and came to find himself in a relationship with somebody who valued him more. Last I heard, Kathy got cheated on the dude that she left Christian for, which was pretty ironic and deserved. And ultimately, I learned to not involve myself with people who had zero self-respect in terms of morals. This situation really explained to me why it is that shit like cheating, liars, and abusers are becoming more and more normalized now. And the reason behind it was that we lost sight of what made us human. Some of us lost the standard we held ourselves up to and opted to live a life filled with short-term gratification. People have given up on being selfless and stopped giving back to those around them, and instead take. We need to stop perpetuating that cycle and allowing others to do the same. We need to fucking take a stand at the end of the day. And you know, my biggest regret throughout this entire experience was not calling out our shit much sooner. And I can't understate how important it is that we come together as a whole to stop that shit in this place when it occurs, because I don't want to live in a fucking society where it becomes a new normal. I want to be able to trust people again, and I want to have faith that people will always do the right thing. And I know you guys do too. When we are so burned out from people being shitty, we need to do the strong thing, we need to do the right thing, and we need to double down and be the opposite of what we hate most in others, no matter how jaded we may be. Because by giving in to being a piece of shit, we lose ourselves and perpetuate that cycle. And you know, hurt people don't always make more hurt people. They only make more hurt people when they give up. So if we want to be able to actually stand looking at ourselves in the mirror, we need to keep our dignity and to keep fighting. Being a good person isn't the easy thing to do, but at the end of the day, it's always the right thing to do. And honestly, I don't think there is much of a point in living life when you lose sight of that. You know, maybe that's why people are so miserable now. Let's find our fucking honor again. But yeah, rant over. I do know this video is kind of all over the place, so I'm sorry for that, but I just wanted to keep it real and speak my mind at the end of the day. What I really want you to get out of this, though, is to try to strive to be that person who opposes everything we hate in society. And at the end of the day, just be honest with yourself. To be somebody can actually look up to, and most importantly, prioritize your morals in every situation. Just because nobody else wants to do it, it doesn't mean that we shouldn't. So I want us to make that stand together. But yeah, to wrap this up, if you did enjoy this video, please let me know, and I hope you get some value out of it. And most of all, I hope you have an amazing day. Until next time.